Hello, Kevin with Kaku Kayak here. I want to go over pedal drive maintenance and troubleshooting and even how to do repairs on them. These things are really simple and they're really easy to work on. I understand it can be intimidating at first. Didn't know if I was going to open something and something was going to fall out, and it's not like that. So it's pretty easy. You do need to have the right tools. So the pedal drive is going to come with all the Allen keys that you need for it. But to remove this cartridge here with this bearing, or to remove these side plates, you need a spanner wrench. This is a 5mm spanner wrench. Got this off of Amazon. It's not expensive. I think it might have been 12 bucks or something like that. I seen a 3-pack for like 25 bucks. Anyways, it's not bad, but you need it. So if you want to do any maintenance or have to do any repairs to this, you're going to need it. So it's nice to have around anyways. The biggest thing that I get with customers is this plate here. If this loosens up, you need to be able to tighten it back down. But also, if you need to open this, sometimes put some nice grease in there on their gears to keep them running smooth. So if this comes loose on you, customers that this has come loose on you, you might notice a little skip in the gears. It's because the gears aren't meshed together good. This loosened up and it's making them pull away from each other, and then they're just grinding on the tips of them. So if you keep pedaling it, you're going to do damage and need new gears. If you stop pedaling right away and you have this with you, you can tighten it back up and be good to go and not do any damage. All right, so let's get into maintenance on it. I do actually have a problem with this pedal drive showing up now. It's really stiff the one way. Reverse, it's fine. But going forward, it's gotten stiff on me, so I need to figure out what's going on with it and fix it, so I might as well make a nice video for you guys so you can see how to do it. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, if I notice any issues with the pedal drive, first I'm going to make sure everything's tight. You need to, every time you're taking a trip, you need to make sure key things are tight. Make sure your prop's tight. You don't want to lose a prop out there on the water, and bolts can loosen, especially on moving parts. You want to make sure these cranks stay tight. So your Allen keys, you want to keep those tight. If these loosen up and you keep pedaling, you strip this whole thing out, you need a new crank arm. So make sure everything stays tight. I would check it before every trip, just like you check your fishing gear. So if I'm going to check these, make sure these are tight. I'm going to make sure this piece is tight. Then if everything seems tight and it's still running messed up, I want to try and isolate the issue next. So I'm going to remove these 4 bolts down here, and then I use a mallet, and you'll tap this thing off here. So I'm going to do that next, and then we'll get in here and check, see what this looks like. Okay, so here you go. I've pulled this apart. You see this gear on the shaft of the pedal drive. It's got a little bit of rust on there. There was little bit of water in here, and I got most of it out. This is the seal between the two. So I don't see any problems around here. There was a couple tablespoons of water, so I'm not sure how that got in there. I got to try and figure that out. But you can see here that I don't know if you can see that, but the bearing behind that gear looks like it's messed up. So we're gonna have to replace that bearing and then grease everything up and put it back together. Probably put a bunch of grease around the seal here to try and make sure try and help that, see if maybe it hit something here and it was able to break the seal just a little bit, but it wasn't full with water. It was just a couple tablespoons, so not a lot got in there, just enough to do some damage to that bearing. Okay, so now I've pulled my prop off, and this is where the spanner wrench comes in. So I'm gonna hook the spanner wrench up like so, and that pulls right out of there. So you went in, inspect all around here, make sure that this was all good, see if the water might have been coming in here. If these threads are wet, then that's a pretty good sign that the water might have been coming in through there, which would have meant that maybe that loosened just enough so that this O-ring right here wasn't working. But when you go to put this back together, you grease this up really good, and you grease up that too to keep it from getting too stiff and dry rotted, or that's when it'll leak in water. So anyways, now gonna have to pull this off here. You can do 2 things. You can either unbolt this, pull this out, change this out, or this little cartridge right here is like 35 bucks. You can just screw a new one of these back in and be good to go. I put grease all around this bearing and gear here. So I don't see that the bearing's really that messed up. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put some grease around here. I'm putting grease around the threads there, you see that? The threads and on that O-ring, okay? And I wanna do the same thing in here too. I'm gonna use a wire brush. I'll clean that up pretty good. Just make sure the threads are nice and clean. Okay, I'm gonna put some grease on that too. This will help keep threads from seizing up as well. I mean, you really want to do this on your bolts and everything when you put it back together. You don't want anything seizing up. You want to be able to take it apart. The other issue here is this bolt is also seized up in there, so I can't take it off. So I won't be able to switch this. If this is no good, I'm just gonna have to change that whole cartridge. Okay, so I've cleaned this side up too. Get all the grease off there. I'm gonna hit it with the wire brush a little bit. Add that over my grease. Okay, so I've greased everything pretty good. I put a little bit of grease on this face and the face of that too. So I'm making sure this seal is all clean. I'll put it back on there. Okay, I'm gonna bolt her on and give her a try. All right, she's all back together. So she's pedaling smooth. I don't see the stiffness that was there before, so it seems like it's pretty good. So I didn't even have to change a bearing or anything. I just had to put some nice good grease on it, clean it, you know, with the wire brush and everything, make sure there's nothing in there. But it seems to be good. Now we're gonna open up the top and we'll grease that up and show you how that works inside there. And then this thing will be like good as new. Okay, so the hardest part of this is getting the crank off. So bicycle shops have a crank puller that twists in here and pulls the thing off. We're not a bike shop. I don't have a crank puller. So I use a mallet. I just put it on the edge of a bench and use a mallet, put something soft under it so once it pops off, it lands on something and, you know, doesn't get scratched up. Okay, so here we go. Both cranks off. Now, before I take them off, I like to take notice that the serial number on the side here, that would be on the left side. So we don't want to kind of remember which side things go off of. I don't know how much of a difference it is, but I wouldn't want to take a chance, right? So make sure you put it back the way it was. So now you need your spanner wrench. And we're going to pull these sides off. Okay, so here we go. We got it open. And you see, so you got one big gear here, and then you got the smaller one on the vertical piece here. This looks really nice, looks really clean. The grease is decent, but it doesn't feel too nice and greasy on top of them teeth there. So I'm gonna throw more grease on it anyways, right? But everything looks pretty dang good in here. You know, you wanna try and get some underneath that gear a little bit because there's a bearing under there. These are sealed bearings on both sides. So on the other side would be the same thing. Once you pull this off, this whole piece would just come out as one piece. So if anything happens to the teeth on these, you would just pull this out and that gear pops right off of there. So it's nice and easy to change out too. These things are really simple to work on. Okay, so there it is, all back together. So I put the cranks on. Make sure you put the right crank arm on the right side, left side crank arm. They got an L and R in the back of it. Make sure it's good. Tighten them bolts down really tight. Put grease on the threads. You may want to put blue Loctite on here. That's fine too. You want some kind of anti-seize. Blue Loctite works as an anti-seize, but you want these bolts to be able to come off every time you're going to do maintenance. And that's another good reason to do maintenance every once in a while too, is to make sure those bolts aren't seized up. So anyways, now it's back together and it seems good. It is nice and smooth again. So hopefully I taught you guys something and showed y'all something that makes you a little bit more confident in how to take care of these yourself.